Pokémon are amazing and interesting creatures, but something from the Pokémon universe that often gets overlooked are the Pokémon trainers who actually raise and use these Pokémon. So today I wanted to find out who the strongest Pokémon trainers of all time really are. I set up a round robin tournament where every trainer's strongest team ever had their levels equalized to level 50 and then had them all battle each other 100 times. I really collected every single, even somewhat noteworthy character from the main series games for a total of 270 characters. Literally everyone is here, unless I forgot someone, which is entirely possible, but we do have Cynthia, and I know you love Cynthia, so keep watching. The results are all here, and why don't we start with the top 10 lowest ranking trainers of all time. Not starting at the number 1 lowest, but at the 10th lowest trainer, and work our way down to keep it interesting. At number 261, the 10th lowest ranking trainer is the weakest Team Rocket member of all time, Rocket Executive Proton. Obviously, not a great ranking, but he's not the worst evil team admin ever, because below him is Magma admin Tabitha, who is the lowest ranking trainer to have more than 2 Pokémon. And he has 4. Embarrassing, but this number advantage was enough for him to rank above his rival Ekma admin Shelly and his colleague Courtney at spot 264, making her the weakest Hoenn trainer. Then we gotta take a break from evil teams, because at spot 265 we have one of Professor Sycamore's assistants, Sina, and her 2 ice types. Followed by the worst evil team admin, if you can call him that, who is also the worst ranking trainer with more than 1 Pokémon, Team Plasma Sage, Root. I don't understand how to pronounce his name, but looking at his team, I can understand why he is so low. Then we got Kimono Girl Miki and her Flareon. Trainers like this with only 1 Pokémon obviously have no chance to win against people like Cynthia or Kieran, but I think it's still interesting to see how these weaker teams fare. Like how below Miki we have Kimono Girl Zuki with her Umbreon. Does this mean that Umbreon is a worse Pokémon than Flareon? No. This probably has to do with Umbreon's moveset, which is the trainer's fault, and it's the trainers we're ranking after all. Now, below these Kimono Girls, in the 2nd lowest spot we have... actually kind of a surprising upset. This isn't someone you would necessarily expect to win at all, but someone who should be top 20, top 30 at least, right? I mean, this guy's Pokemon is in the top percentage. I'm of course talking about youngster Joey and his Rattata, which is actually Eradicate later. Not sure why he's so low, maybe he was having a bad day, but at least he didn't rank at the very bottom. So, who is the lowest ranking trainer that ranks literally below the first NPC trainer of a game, you might wonder? Well, at spot 270, with just 372 wins, we have Ultra Recon Squad Soliera, with a single Poipole, with nasty plot and physical moves. And I guess Dulce also ranks here because he has the exact same team. I only included one of them in the tournament because having 270 people battle each other 100 times already was 3,631,500 battles, which in total took 96 hours total to do, so excuse me for not including duplicates, okay? Subscribe. Now, I'm sure you're wondering where the other Kimono Girls are ranking, since we've only had 2 of them in the bottom 10. Well, the Vaporeon Kimono Girl ranks just outside the bottom 10 at spot 260, and after her we only have the Suicune Hunter Yusin before we have the Espeon Kimono Girl. Then we have Arun, Ilima, the Explosive Petrol, Aqua admin Matt, who ranks noticeably higher than the other Aqua and Magma admins, followed by Ramos, and only then at spot 252 we have the final Kimono Girl with her Jolteon. Yes, you've heard that correctly. This trainer with a single Pokémon ranks higher than a trial captain and a gym leader. I really think it's time for this guy to just retire, and Ilima should not, because I like his design. You can stay. Now, what they could do next is go through the rest of the list, lowest to highest, but I feel like doing that with 270 characters is a bit much. Would get a bit boring after a while, so instead, let's just go through some of the trainer classes and interesting placements, alright? But before we do that, I just want to give a big thank you to Smith Plays Pokemon and CRZ Shadows for making this program to run all these simulations and for making the code of the program public. I did make some changes to the code, but without them this video or project wouldn't have been possible, so I'd just like to take this moment to give them this thumbs up emoji. Thank you. Now, since we've already had a couple evil team admins, why don't we take a closer look at how all these evil teams are ranked. The Aqua and Magma admins rank pretty low, as we've established, and their leaders don't do that much better. Archie ranks noticeably higher than Maxi, but still not very high. However, I must add that I did not give them or any evil team leaders their Rainbow Rocket teams. This because these teams are from characters from different universes, and so are technically not the same person as the Archie and Maxi from our universe. So it's just their Aures teams. And speaking of Aures, both teams actually temporarily also had one more notable member, who outranks both of them with almost more than their wins combined. I am of course talking about the queen of battle music, Zinnia, at spot 104. Going back to Team Rocket, they don't do well either. Except for Giovanni, who was the only evil team member to rank in the top 20 of this tournament. Where in the top 20 exactly, I'll keep a secret for now however, so that at the very end of the video we can over the top 20 together, alright? Here is Cyrus at the perfect spot 100 with his comrades all ranking relatively low, underneath Team Plasma's Ice-type trainer Zinzolin. N ranks pretty high, but surprisingly below Colress and Getsis, despite N being the one with the legendary on his team. Lysander and his team don't rank too high, but at least they do have the courtesy to show up in the right order, with Mabel as the strongest admin. Something which can't be said about Team Skull, where the leader Guzma ranks 27 places below Plumeria, and also below Gladion, where he ranks just outside the top 20 at number 21. Luzamine ranks above Faba, but Rose ranks significantly lower than his secretary Oleana. I'm not sure if Pierce and Marnie belong on this list, but here they are anyway. And finally we have Team Star with Atticus at the bottom, followed by Ortega, Giacomo, Ari, Mela and Penny of course on top. But there's 2 spots left on this list, and you're probably wondering who they are for since we've gone through every team. Well, I actually decided to add 7 anime-only trainers to this round robin as well, and so it is time to prepare for trouble and make it double, because at spot 207 and 208 we have Jesse and James, and I'm a bit surprised but very happy that they managed to place exactly next to each other on this list. But how did all the anime-only characters do, you ask? Well, Jesse and James rank at the bottom, and it's not much higher that we have the winner of the Sinnoh League, Tobias, and his Darkrai and Latios. We do know that he has 6 Pokemon, but since he's only ever shown us 2 of them, I just did the logical thing and gave him 4 extra Magikarp to make up for it. Above him is the other Sinnoh trainer Paul and the team he used when he lost to Ash. And above him is Gary and the team he used when he lost to Ash. And then all the way at spot 47 we have Ash himself. Quite impressive considering this is just a normal Pikachu without a light ball. And finally, at spot 24 we have the strongest anime-only character, Lumio's Conference champion Elaine and his Mega Charizard. Mega Evolutions were allowed in this tournament because they are awesome, but the other gimmicks like Dynamax, Terrestrialization and Z-moves are not, since they are kinda like a one region only thing. Megas have been in 4 regions, so they are more global and allowed. But who is the lowest ranking Mega Evolution user, you might ask? Well, technically it's Karina, but since she doesn't use a Mega Evolution in the team I added for this, she doesn't really count. Which means that the lowest ranking Mega Trainer is Maxi again. But in second last place, it's actually not Archie, it's Brandon and the team he uses after you beat the Hoenn League. Then it's Archie and after him it's May, noticeably higher than Brandon despite the teams being very similar. Then we got most of the Hoenn Elite Four in the correct order, and then we have Lysander and Zinnia, followed by Callum at spot 91, and just 1 spot above him is the lowest ranking champion of all time, Trace and his Mega Pidgeot. I like Mega Pidgeot, I don't care about Trace. I have mixed feelings. After Trace we have the final Hoenn Elite Four member Drake, closely followed by Serena, and then 18 spots above Trace, we have Green from the Let's Go games. Can we just make her the champion instead? She's funny. Then we got Steven at 54, Diantha at 40, and the second strongest Mega user is Elaine, which means that the strongest and only person with a Mega to rank in the top 20 is actually Wally, who ranks 150 spots above Brandon and May. Didn't expect that personally because I always saw them as the greater rival, but I guess this is reality. And in fact, Wally is the second highest ranking rival in all of Pokemon, only second to, of course, Nemona, who also ranks in the top 20 together with Hop and Blue. Once again, we'll get in the exact top 20 ranking in a bit, be patient please. We've actually gone over a lot of the rivals already, but looking at it like this, you can really see that May and Brandon just don't do well despite their Mega Pokemon. The only rivals ranking lower than them are, unsurprisingly, Hau, Barry and Kieran. Yeah, okay, I'm not fooling anyone, it's Tierno, Trevor and Shauna. Unless you want to include Lily as a rival, but I don't really think you can. She does have a team though, but it's for when you have her as a partner in the battle tree, so it's more of a support team, so understandable that it's not very high. Gen 2 Silver doesn't do well for a rival either, but he is in the top 50%. We've covered Gen 3, but in Gen 4 we actually have Dawn outrank Barry with Lucas at the bottom. Again, such a big gap between two playable characters, but this time it's more understandable because Lucas has a Dunsparce and Dawn does not. Gen 5 is also a bit surprising with Bianca outranking Charon, but at least Hugh is on top. Gen 7 Hau is closer to the top 20, but Gen 8's Beat and Marnie are not. And finally, the Gen 9 rivals, Carmine ranks last with a respectable spot 59, followed right away by Penny, then Arven at rank 33 and Kieran at rank 23. Speaking of Gen 9, here are the teachers ranked. The guy from Blueberry ranks perfectly in the middle. For the Legends Arceus Wardens, we have Ingo on top, who also ranks 53 spots above Emmet. Poor guy. And the highest Gen 4 stat trainer is the one specializing in special attack, Mira, aka the least interesting one. And speaking of specializing, let's go over the ranking of the gym leaders in Elite Four real quick for each region. The strongest gym leader / Elite Four from Kanto is Giovanni and the weakest is Koga. No idea how he is the one who got promoted to Elite Four later, I mean Sabrina's right there. The strongest from Johto is unsurprisingly Claire, with Will and Koga still the lowest. In fact, 3 of the Elite Four are actually in the bottom 4, so the Johto League is not doing great. In Hoenn it's Wallace outranking Steven and Liza is the lowest, followed by Tate. In Sinnoh the strongest is the most forgettable one, it's Berta, and the weakest is by far Gardenia. Unova is Iris on top and Lenora at the bottom. In Kalos, as I mentioned before, the weakest is Ramos and Seabolt is the strongest, but even he doesn't manage to get in the top 150. In Alola, Moraine is the strongest if you don't include Kyuki, and once again, as I mentioned, Ilima is at the bottom. Galar is actually Kabu with Milo at the bottom. But one thing I'd like to mention here is that in the DLC, we are introduced to Clara and Avery. We actually aren't real gym leaders, but are gym leaders in the minor division. But they actually outrank quite a few real gym leaders, with especially Clara ranking only below Kabu and Marnie. So I'm just saying, maybe it's time for someone to get a promotion. Oh, and finally, in Paldea, Hassel is the highest and Katie is the lowest, and in Blueberry, Crispin is the only one not ranking in the top 20. The strongest normal type specialist is Larry, followed by, of course, Whitney. Grass is Brassius, Fire is Flint, Water is Wallace, Electric is Faulkner, Flying is Larry again. Bug is Aaron, ranking all the way up at 29, which is pretty damn good for a Bug type trainer. Poison is Roxy, and guess who's at the bottom? Ground is Giovanni, Rock is Time, Fighting is Dendra, who's only 1 spot above Maylene, Psychic is Tulip, Ghost is Chantal, Ice is Candace, Dragon is Iris, Dark is Grimsley, now imagine if he actually evolved his ace Pokemon, Steel is Amaris, and Fairy is Lacey. But now, it's finally time for what we've all been waiting for. We've been putting it off for way too long, but I will finally tell you the rankings of the 2 most popular characters of all time. Shieldbird did rank higher than Swordward. Okay. There's actually a couple more interesting rivalries we have results for, like how Dexio outranks Cena, but that's unsurprising if we look at their teams. It's been theorized that Kabu is Flannery's granddad, and I don't know if that's true or not, but Kabu does outrank her. Leon does outrank his brother Hop, but if we look at the matches between the 2 of them, Hop usually does defeat Leon. Irida outranks Adaman, and they both outrank his / their descendant Perrin. Tulip outranks Dendra, Mustard outranks his wife Honey, Red outranks Ash, and finally, in Saffron City, there is the rivalry between Sabrina and Dojo Master Koichi. Sabrina ended up getting the official title of Gym Leader over Koichi, and this was the right decision because she outranks him by 157 spots. Oh god, that was a lot. One person I expected to rank high was the unused Professor Oak trainer from the original Gen 1 games. It was theorized it was supposed to be a super boss available after beating the league, since his Pokemon are a higher level than the champion. I decided to add him to this tournament as well, but he only ranked 220th, and I think this is just kind of related to the fact that this team is so outdated. Towers was great in Generation 1, but not anymore, and there's just better things than an Executor without Step, an Arcanine with Ember, and a Gyarados with Hyper Beam. A final fun fact before we go into the top 20 is that the highest ranking trainer with less than 6 Pokemon is Muramasa of the Kitakami Ogre Clan. And to those of you who don't know who that is, neither do I. So we've been through a lot in this video, but as promised we will now go into the final 20. But instead of going from number 20 to 1, we will skip the first half and just go straight from number 10 to number 1. This will be more exciting because this way it will be more of a surprise to find out which characters made it into the top 10 and who didn't. So, my dear fellow Pokemon trainers, I'd like to present you now with the top 10 strongest Pokemon NPCs of all time. First up, we got a young trainer who, despite specializing in the powerful dragon typing, uses a balanced team with impeccable coverage, giving her an edge over the other dragon type specialists. At number 10, we got the current champion of Unova, Iris. Moving on, we got a trainer renowned for his undefeated record. A man who can't easily find his way on the streets, but on the battlefield never strayed from victory, and so was able to find his way into the top 10 strongest trainers of all time. At number 9, we got the champion of Galar, Leon, getting here without use of any held items or use of his signature gimmick, Dynamax. Next up are the strongest humans of the Paldea region, with at number 8, Champion Gida, and at number 7, Champion Nemona. Once Gida regrouped her team, she was able to perfectly utilize the power of King Gambit's Supreme Overlord, which was devastating enough to make her one of only 2 trainers to get a positive win rate over the number 1 ranked trainer. Something Nemona wasn't able to do, but with her exceptional talent for raising Pokemon, being able to do so at the same speed as the player still gave her an edge over many other trainers. Moving on, we gotta go back to Unova, where in Black and White 2, the player had the ability to battle many trainers from every other prior Pokemon game. However, there was also the option to battle the top contestants of 2012's Hawaii's World Championship. One of these contestants was also entered into this tournament, and at number 6 we got world runner-up Wolfie. Rising even above Wolfie, we have another man from Unova. A trainer who wields not just his own ace Pokemon, but those of his fallen Elite Four, carrying their legacies into battle. At number 5, we got the strongest trainer from mainland Unova, Alder. Outranking him, we got someone who ever since 2006 has been the face of strong trainers, striking fear into every trainer's heart just by playing a few piano tiles, and even in-game was able to defeat Caitlyn so badly she blackmailed her into letting her stay in her home. At number 4, we got the highest ranking champion in history, Cynthia. But underneath the oceans of Unova lies an academy, aiming to train the strongest trainers of the next generation. There are so many powerful trainers at this school, they even have their own unofficial Elite Four. The person taking the bronze medal in this tournament is one of these students, a real underdog who has a positive win rate against every lower ranking trainer besides one. At number 3, we got BB League Elite Four member, Amaris. Finally, moving on to number 2, a battle machine bound to defeat anyone identified as an obstacle by their code. Battling abilities so peerless, they are built upon analysis of all the battles carried out by the various champions of the Paldea region, being described by some as simply being built different, with a full team of 6 Pokemon who don't even exist in our own time yet. At number 2, we got AI Turo. And finally, at number 1, we've got Seda. Seda's number 1. Unsurprising, probably. Turo's number 2, and we haven't seen Seda yet. I wonder who number 1 could be. A bit anticlimactic maybe, but these are the results, so this is how it is. If you want to see the full results, make sure you subscribe, and afterwards you can go to the description where you'll find a link to a page with the full results. And I mean, you can also access it without, but I just would really appreciate it if you did subscribe. So please just do that, because if you don't, I will activate the AI offensive protocols.